Marco De Santis slammed his tattooed hand against the hospital bed rail with enough force to rattle every tray in the room. "Get your hands off me," he thundered. The young nurse beside him gasped and stumbled backward. A tray of medical instruments crashed onto the floor, and within a heartbeat, 4 heavily armed bodyguards surrounded the bed. The attending physician froze in place, afraid that one wrong move would turn the private hospital suite into a crime scene. Marco's dark eyes swept across the room like a predator searching for its next victim. "No one touches me," he growled. His voice was low, but every person in the room heard the threat hidden beneath it. The room fell silent. For 6 weeks, ever since an assassin's bullet had ripped through his lower back and damaged his spine, Marco De Santis had become every hospital employee's nightmare. He was one of the most feared mafia bosses in Italy. Covered from his neck to his ankles in intricate black and grey tattoos, Marco looked more like a warrior than a patient. Angels, skulls, Roman warriors, wolves, roses, and crosses wrapped around every visible inch of his muscular body. Even confined to a hospital bed, he carried himself like a man who ruled entire cities with a single phone call. 6 nurses had already quit. One left crying before her shift ended. Another resigned after Marco shattered a glass against the wall only inches from her face. The hospital director had exhausted every option. Nobody wanted the assignment anymore. Nobody, except one woman. The heavy wooden door opened. Every head turned. A very big plus-size woman stepped calmly into the room, carrying nothing but a medical bag and a clipboard. She wasn't trying to hide her size. She didn't shrink herself. She didn't apologize for taking up space. She walked with quiet confidence. Her name was Sofia Moretti, born and raised in Florence, Italy. Sofia had spent nearly 10 years working as a registered nurse. She had cared for children battling cancer, elderly patients who had no families left, accident victims, and people everyone else had already given up on. She believed every patient deserved dignity, no exceptions. The hospital director hurried toward her. "Sofia," he whispered, his forehead covered in sweat, "you can still say no." She looked past him, straight at Marco. "You must be Marco De Santis." Marco studied her from head to toe. Unlike everyone else, she wasn't trembling. She wasn't avoiding eye contact. She wasn't pretending not to recognize him. That irritated him. "You know exactly who I am." "I do." "And you still walked in?" "Yes." His lips curled into a cold smile. "Interesting." The director cleared his throat nervously. "Sofia will be taking over your care." Marco laughed. It wasn't a pleasant laugh. It was the kind that made people regret entering the room. "No." The director blinked. "No?" "I said no." He looked directly at Sofia. "I don't need a nurse," Sofia answered calmly. "Actually, you do." Several bodyguards exchanged worried looks. Nobody contradicted Marco. Nobody. Yet this woman had done it within 30 seconds. Marco leaned slightly forward, despite the pain shooting through his back. "You've got courage. I've got a job. I'll pay you to quit. I'm already being paid to stay. I'll triple it." "No, I'll give you enough money to retire." "No." His expression hardened. "Everyone has a price." Sofia smiled politely. "My patients aren't for sale, and neither is my professionalism." The room became painfully quiet. Marco narrowed his eyes. "What makes you think I'll let you treat me?" She shrugged. "You don't have to like me. I don't. You don't have to trust me. I definitely don't. But if you ever want to walk again," she paused, "then we're going to have to work together." Marco's jaw tightened. "You think you're the first person to tell me that?" "No." "You think your speech is inspiring?" "No." "You think I'm interested?" "No." "Then why are you still talking?" "Because nobody else seems willing to tell you the truth." One of the doctors quietly stepped backward. He wanted to be as far away from the conversation as possible. Marco stared at Sofia. "What truth?" "You're angry. I'm furious. I can see that." I'm dangerous. I've noticed. You should be afraid. Sofia's voice softened. I've watched people take their final breaths while holding my hand. I've comforted families after losing everything. Anger doesn't scare me. Marco smirked. What scares you? Giving up. Something flickered behind Marco's eyes. It disappeared almost instantly. I'm done talking. Perfect. His eyebrows rose. Perfect. We can begin your examination. No, I'm afraid that isn't optional. Marco laughed again. You really don't understand who you're speaking to. I understand exactly who I'm speaking to. And who is that? A patient. One of the bodyguards accidentally let out a tiny chuckle. Marco slowly turned his head. Luca, the bodyguard straightened immediately. Yes, boss, did you just laugh? No, I heard something. I coughed. Marco continued staring. For 5 seconds, Luca swallowed. My throat was dry. Marco looked unconvinced. Sofia interrupted before the tension exploded. Could you roll up your sleeve, please? No. Please, no. I'll wait. So will I. Without another word, Sofia pulled a chair beside his bed and sat down. Marco frowned. What are you doing? Waiting. For what? For you to get tired of saying no. I can outwait anyone. I packed lunch. Another bodyguard looked down to hide his smile. Marco caught him. You too. The bodyguard quickly shook his head. No, boss. You people are unbelievable. 10 minutes passed. Neither Marco nor Sofia moved. Finally, Marco broke the silence. You're stubborn. So I've been told. You always this difficult. Only when my patients refuse treatment. I'm not refusing. You've said no 12 times. You counted? I did actually. Counted. I have excellent attention to detail. Marco exhaled sharply. You annoy me. You've mentioned that. You smile too much. I've been told that, too. And you're too calm. I've heard that as well. He stared at her. Does anything bother you? Oh, plenty of things. Like what? Cold coffee. Marco blinked. Cold coffee. And people who skip physical therapy. For the first time, one corner of Marco's mouth twitched. It wasn't quite a smile, but it was close enough for everyone in the room to notice. Sofia noticed too. She pretended she hadn't. Instead, she quietly picked up her notebook. Marco frowned. What are you writing? My observations. What observations? She looked at the page. Patient almost smiled. I did not. Almost. Cross that out. I can't. Why? Because it's medically significant, he scoffed. That's ridiculous. So is pretending you're not making progress. Marco folded his tattooed arms. I've made no progress. You've gone nearly 5 minutes without yelling. I wasn't keeping track. I was. She made another note. Patient also appears less hostile. Marco sighed. You enjoy provoking me. I enjoy helping people. I'm not people. Sofia looked directly into his eyes. Everyone is people, Marco. She had just called him by his first name. Every bodyguard in the room stiffened. Nobody called Marco De Santis by his first name unless they had known him since childhood. Marco didn't speak. He simply stared. Then, after several long seconds, he slowly extended one heavily tattooed arm toward her. Only a few inches. Take the blood pressure. Sofia stood without saying, I told you so. She gently wrapped the cuff around his arm. I'm going to tighten it now. He gave a small nod. The machine began inflating. Nobody in the room moved. It felt like history. The most feared Mafia boss in Italy had finally allowed someone to care for him. If you're already wondering why Marco trusted Sofia more than anyone else, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, because the twists in this story are only getting started. And trust me, what happens next changes everything. The monitor beeped softly. Sofia glanced at the reading. Your blood pressure is higher than I'd like. I'm surrounded by annoying people. She smiled. That might explain it. Before Marco could answer, bang! The hospital suite doors flew open. A bodyguard rushed inside, breathing heavily. His face had turned completely pale. "Boss," Marco looked up. "What is it?" The man swallowed hard. "We've found the person who ordered the assassination." The room froze. Marco's expression changed instantly. His cold eyes darkened with rage. "Bring him to me." The bodyguard hesitated. "We can't." Marco's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. "And why not?" The bodyguard looked around the room before answering. "Because he's already inside this hospital. If you think you know who the traitor is, drop your theory in the comments. And if you're enjoying the story so far, don't forget to like the video and share it with someone who loves emotional mafia dramas. The truth is about to unravel, and nothing will ever be the same. The words hung in the air like a loaded weapon. He's already inside this hospital. Every bodyguard immediately reached for his pistol. The attending doctor backed against the wall, his hands shaking. Marco's dark eyes locked onto the messenger. "Explain." The bodyguard swallowed. "Our men intercepted a phone call 10 minutes ago. Whoever betrayed you arranged to meet someone here today." Marco's face hardened. "So the rat came to watch whether I lived or died?" "No, boss." "What do you mean?" "He came to finish the job." The room exploded into motion. 2 guards rushed to the hallway. Another locked the hospital suite from the inside. Luca stepped beside Marco's bed. "Boss, we need to move you." Marco glared at him. "I'm not running. It's too dangerous." "I said I'm not running." Sofia stepped between the bodyguards before the argument could escalate. "Everyone stop." The room turned toward her. Marco frowned. "Did you just tell my men to stop?" "Yes." "This isn't your business." "It became my business the second someone threatened my patient's life." Marco stared at her. Most people panicked when danger appeared. She became calmer. It didn't make sense. She looked toward the doctor. "Has he missed any medication today?" The doctor blinked. "What?" "Pain medication, no. Blood thinner, no. Neurological medication, no." She nodded. "Good." Marco looked annoyed. "Someone is trying to kill me, and you're talking about medication." She met his eyes. "If you're alive by the end of today, you'll still need your medication." Luca couldn't help it. A tiny smile escaped. Marco noticed immediately. "Luca." "Yes, boss." "You've smiled twice today." "I apologize." "I don't want apologies." "What do you want?" "I want to know why my own bodyguard suddenly finds everything amusing." Luca glanced toward Sofia. "I think she's different." Marco looked back at Sofia. "I noticed." Before anyone could speak again, another guard burst into the room. "Boss." Marco's voice remained calm. "What now?" "We searched the security cameras and—" The visitor disappeared. Marco's eyes narrowed. "Impossible. He entered the hospital. But he never left." Silence. Sofia looked toward the hallway. Maybe he never intended to leave. The sentence hit everyone at once. Marco slowly turned toward Luca. "Lock this floor down. It's already done. Nobody comes in." "Yes, boss." "Nobody goes out." "Understood." The guards scattered. Within seconds, the hallway outside filled with armed men. Sofia quietly finished writing something on Marco's medical chart. He watched her. "You're surprisingly calm." I've learned that panic rarely solves problems." "You don't seem frightened." "I didn't say I wasn't frightened." "You hide it well." "I have to." "Why?" "Because when patients see fear on a nurse's face," she paused, "they stop believing everything will be okay." Marco looked away. Those words stayed with him. For years, people had hidden fear from him, not to comfort him, to survive him. There was a difference. Sofia adjusted the blanket covering his legs. He instinctively pulled away. "I said nobody touches me." She stopped. "I'm sorry." Marco noticed something unexpected. She wasn't offended. She wasn't angry. She simply respected the boundary. For reasons he couldn't explain. That bothered him more. Several minutes passed. The tension remained unbearable. Finally, Marco spoke. Tell me something. What? Why nursing? Sofia smiled softly. My grandmother. What about her? She raised me. Marco stayed silent. When I was 19, she became very sick. I'm sorry. So was I. Sofia looked toward the window. I spent almost a year watching nurses care for her. They inspired you. They reminded her she was still a person. She looked back at Marco. They didn't see an old woman. They saw Maria Moretti. Marco didn't interrupt. After she passed away, Sofia smiled sadly. I decided I wanted to make people feel that same dignity. Marco looked down at his tattooed hands. And here you are. Here I am, caring for a criminal. I'm caring for a human being. Marco laughed quietly. You don't know what I've done. No. If you did, she interrupted gently, I'd still check your blood pressure. For the first time in many years, Marco didn't know how to answer. His entire life had been built on fear. Fear created obedience. Fear created loyalty. Fear created power. But this woman didn't seem interested in fear at all. A knock interrupted the silence. 3 quick knocks. Everyone froze. Luca raised his weapon. Who is it? A voice answered through the door. Food delivery. Nobody moved. Marco looked toward Luca. We didn't order food. No, boss. The voice came again. Room service. Marco smiled. A dangerous smile. There is no room service in this hospital. The hallway exploded with gunfire. Bang, bang, bang. Doctors screamed. The bodyguards fired back. Bullets shattered glass outside the room. Sofia instinctively ducked. Marco grabbed the side of the bed. Protect the doctors, Luca shouted into his radio. Ambush! Ambush! More gunshots echoed through the corridor. Someone outside yelled in Italian. Finish him! Marco's expression turned ice cold. They found me. A bullet ripped through the door. Wood splintered across the room. The doctor dropped to the floor. Sofia immediately crawled toward him. Are you hurt? I don't know. She quickly checked him. No blood. Another shot blasted through the wall. Marco watched Sofia. Instead of hiding herself, she shielded the terrified doctor with her own body. He couldn't understand it. She's insane, one guard muttered. No, Marco replied quietly. She's brave. Luca looked at him in surprise. It was the first compliment Marco had given anyone in months. The shooting suddenly stopped. Silence. Too much silence. Marco frowned. I don't like this. Neither did Luca. He slowly approached the door 1 step, 2, 3, then boom! The entire hallway shook. An explosion blasted the entrance apart. Smoke poured into the room. Everyone coughed. Emergency alarms screamed throughout the hospital. Luca fired twice into the smoke. 2 figures collapsed. Another rushed forward. Before the attacker could raise his weapon, crack! A bodyguard tackled him into the wall. The fight lasted only seconds. When it was over, 3 attackers lay unconscious. 1 had escaped. Luca searched their pockets. No identification. Marco nodded. They're professionals. One of the captured attackers suddenly laughed. Blood trickled from the corner of his mouth. You'll never leave this hospital alive. Marco rolled closer. You've got confidence. The man smiled. You think this is about revenge? Marco said nothing. The attacker leaned closer. You still don't know who betrayed you. Marco grabbed the front of the man's jacket. Tell me. The attacker laughed again. The person sitting closest to you. Everyone in the room looked around instinctively. Has already sold you. Before anyone could react, the attacker bit down hard. Foam appeared around his mouth. Within seconds, he collapsed, dead, poison hidden in one of his teeth. The room fell silent again. Marco slowly released his grip. He came here planning to die. Luca nodded grimly. Yes. Marco looked around the room. Someone close to him had betrayed him. Someone close enough to know where he was. Someone close enough to predict his every move. His gaze landed briefly on each bodyguard, each doctor, then on Sofia. She met his eyes without flinching. I know what you're thinking, she said quietly. Marco didn't answer. she continued. If I were in your position, she took a slow breath. I'd trust no one either. Her words stunned him. She wasn't defending herself. She wasn't begging him to believe her. She simply understood. That made him trust her just a little more. He hated how quickly that feeling had appeared, because trusting anyone had nearly cost him his life once already. And somewhere inside that bottle, the real traitor was still watching. If you're wondering whether Marco is making a mistake by letting Sofia stay close, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, because the next part reveals a secret from Marco's past that changes everything. Marco looked at Luca. Double the guards. Already done. Search every room. Yes, boss. No one leaves this hospital until I know who wants me dead. Just then, Sofia's phone buzzed inside her bag. She frowned. I wasn't expecting a call. She picked it up. The color drained from her face. Marco noticed instantly. What is it? Sofia stared silently at the screen. Then she whispered, Someone knows my name. The message contained only 6 chilling words. You're his weakness now, Sofia Moretti. If that message gave you chills, let me know in the comments what you think will happen next. And if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like the video and share it with friends who love suspenseful mafia romances. The danger is only beginning. Sofia's fingers tightened around her phone. The message remained on the screen. You're his weakness now, Sofia Moretti. She read it again, then a third time. Marco noticed the color leave her face. What happened? She slowly turned the phone toward him. Without saying a word, Marco read the message. The warmth that had begun to return to his expression disappeared instantly. His eyes became cold, dangerously cold. Luca looked over his shoulder. His face hardened. They know her full name. Marco nodded. They've been watching. Sofia inhaled slowly. I've never seen that number before. Marco held out his hand. Give me the phone. She placed it in his palm. He handed it to Luca. Trace it. Trace it. Luca frowned. It'll probably be a burner. I don't care. We'll find something. You'd better. Sofia remained surprisingly composed. I should leave. Every head turned toward her. Marco's eyes narrowed. What? I said I should leave. No. She looked directly at him. They're targeting me because of you, I know. If I leave, they'll stop. Marco laughed once. It wasn't mocking. It was almost sad. You think men like that stop? They want leverage. They want blood. She opened her mouth to argue. Marco interrupted. The second they learned your name, he paused, your life changed. Silence settled over the room. She hated that he was probably right. One of the doctors quietly excused himself, leaving only Marco, Sofia, Luca, and 2 guards inside the suite. Marco looked toward Luca. I want every camera in this hospital. We're already pulling the footage. I want names. Understood. I want visitors. Already making the list. Marco leaned back carefully against the pillows. Pain flashed across his face. Sofia noticed immediately. You're back. I'm fine. No, I'm fine. She stepped closer. You're lying. He almost smiled. You call everyone a liar? Only the ones who are. She reached for the medication tray. Marco watched her. You don't give up. I've noticed you don't either. She prepared an injection. This will help with the pain. I don't need it. You do. I've tolerated worse. I don't doubt it. She held up the syringe. But pain doesn't become impressive just because you ignore it. Marco stared at her for several seconds. You always have an answer. My grandmother used to say stubborn people need patient conversations. Marco shook his head. Your grandmother sounds exhausting. Sofia laughed. Oh, she absolutely was. The sound surprised everyone. It wasn't loud, it wasn't forced, it was genuine. Marco realized something strange. He hadn't heard someone laugh naturally around him in years. Not without fear, not without pretending. He found himself asking another question before he could stop himself. What was she like? Sofia smiled. Short. Marco blinked. Short and loud. Loud very. What else? She made the best lasagna in Florence. Marco nodded once. My mother made terrible lasagna. Sofia couldn't hide her surprise. You cook? I didn't say I cooked. You mentioned your mother. Marco looked toward the window. When I was 12, his voice grew quieter. She insisted on cooking every Sunday. Were you close? I was. What happened? She died. Sofia didn't speak. My father changed after that. Marco's jaw tightened. He wasn't a good man. He taught me that fear was respect. Sofia listened carefully. He was wrong. Marco looked at her. I know that now. You didn't then. No. A silence followed. Not uncomfortable. Just honest. Marco rarely spoke about his family. He never spoke about his mother. Yet somehow, the words came easily with Sofia. Luca noticed it too. Later that afternoon, after Sofia finished checking Marco's vitals, Luca caught her outside the room. Can I ask you something? She nodded. Of course. What are you doing? She looked confused. Checking medication, no. I mean with him, she smiled. I'm being his nurse. I've worked for Marco for 15 years. And I've never heard him talk about his mother. Sofia looked back toward the room. He misses her. Luca frowned. How can you know that already? Because people only mention the ones they miss. Luca folded his arms. I thought he'd scare you away. So did everyone else. Aren't you afraid? She thought for a moment. I'm afraid of what happens if everyone gives up on someone. Luca shook his head. You really believe he can change? I believe people surprise us. Even Mafia bosses. Especially the ones who think they've gone too far. Before Luca could respond, another guard hurried toward them. Luca. What? We found the security footage. Luca immediately followed him. Sofia returned to Marco's room. He was staring at the ceiling. You look bored. I hate lying here. I know. I hate depending on people. I know. I hate asking for help. I've noticed. He looked at her. You know what I miss most? What? Walking. She nodded. I expected that. No. He shook his head. I miss opening my own doors. The answer caught her off guard. She smiled sadly. It's always the little things. I never appreciated them. You will now. I hope so. She adjusted the blanket again. This time, Marco didn't pull away. He noticed it himself. So did she. Neither mentioned it. Minutes later, Luca returned carrying a tablet. His face was grim. Boss. Marco looked up. What did you find? Luca pressed play. Security footage appeared on the screen. A man wearing a maintenance uniform pushed a cleaning cart through the hospital corridor. He entered 45 minutes before the shooting. Marco watched silently. The man stopped briefly outside Marco's room, then looked directly into the hidden camera, almost as if he knew it was there. He wanted us to see him, Marco said. Luca nodded. Watch this. The video continued. The man turned the cart around. As he walked away, he deliberately dropped something. Luca paused the footage. On the floor lay a small silver coin. Marco frowned. Zoom in. The image sharpened. Sofia leaned closer. The coin had an engraving, a wolf. Marco's face changed instantly. No. Luca looked at him. You recognize it. Marco nodded slowly. I've seen that symbol before. Where? He took a deep breath. My younger brother. Sofia looked confused. I thought your brother died. He did. Marco's voice became almost a whisper. And that coin was buried with him. The room fell silent. Luca looked stunned. That's impossible. Marco's breathing grew heavier. No. He stared at the screen. It means someone dug up his grave. Sofia covered her mouth. Why would anyone do something so cruel? Marco's eyes filled with a mixture of rage and grief. Because they wanted a message. What message? Marco looked at her. They're not trying to kill me anymore. They're trying to destroy me. His monitor suddenly began beeping faster. Sofia immediately checked him. Marco. I'm fine. Know your heart rate. I'm fine. You need to calm down. He slammed his fist against the mattress. They touched my brother. His voice cracked. For the first time, Sofia heard pain instead of anger. Without thinking, she gently placed her hand over his tattooed fist. The room froze. Even Marco looked down at her hand. For 3 long seconds, neither of them moved. Normally, he would have pushed her away. Instead, he slowly relaxed his fingers, then quietly whispered, "Don't move." Sofia looked into his eyes. "I wasn't planning to." Luca watched in disbelief. The most feared mafia boss in Italy had just allowed someone to comfort him. Not because she was ordered to, because he wanted her there. Marco slowly turned his hand over until their fingers rested together. His voice was barely audible. "I don't remember the last time someone touched me without wanting something." Sofia smiled softly. "I don't want anything." He looked at her for a long moment, then said the words that would change both their lives forever. "You're the only one allowed to touch me." Outside the room, a man wearing a doctor's coat quietly lowered his phone after taking several photographs through the narrow window in the door. He smiled, then sent the pictures to an unknown number. His message contained only one sentence. "Now we know exactly how to break him." If you've been enjoying this emotional journey, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, because the next chapter raises the stakes even higher. Marco has just revealed his greatest vulnerability, and his enemies are already planning to use it. And before you go to the next part, tell me in the comments, do you think Sofia should stay by Marco's side or walk away while she still can? If you're hooked so far, please like this video and share it with someone who loves gripping mafia romance stories. The biggest betrayal is still waiting to be uncovered. Marco couldn't take his eyes off Sofia. Neither of them noticed the silence that had swallowed the room. His hand remained wrapped around hers, not tightly, not possessively, almost desperately, as though letting go meant falling into a darkness he had spent years trying to escape. Luca quietly cleared his throat. "Boss!" Marco didn't answer. Luca tried again. "Boss." This time Marco slowly released Sofia's hand. He looked away first. "I need a moment." Luca understood, everyone out. Within seconds the room emptied until only Marco and Sofia remained. She walked toward the window without saying a word, giving him space. After nearly a minute, Marco finally spoke. "You should leave." She turned. "You've already said that once. I'm serious now. So am I. They'll come after you. They already have. You don't understand. Then explain it to me." Marco looked at the floor. "My enemies don't make threats." He raised his eyes. "They make examples." Sofia remained calm. "I know. No, Sofia." His voice became firmer. "They'll burn homes. They'll poison friends. They'll kidnap children. They'll hurt innocent people simply because someone looked at me." He swallowed hard. "I won't let that happen to you." Sofia slowly walked back toward him. "You don't get to decide that." His eyebrows rose. "What? You don't get to decide whether I'm brave. I'm trying to keep you alive, and I'm trying to help you heal." "You can't do that if you're dead," she sighed. "You really think I'll run? I hope you do." "I won't." Marco shook his head in frustration. "You're impossible." "So I've heard." For the first time in years, he laughed. Not a sarcastic laugh, a real one. It lasted only a second, but it was real. Sofia smiled. "There it is." "What?" The laugh. "I don't laugh, you just did." "I smirk." "You laughed." He rolled his eyes. "I already regret it." A knock interrupted them. Luca entered. "Boss." Marco's expression hardened again. "What?" "We found the doctor." "What doctor?" "The one who photographed you." Sofia looked surprised. "You identified him already?" Luca nodded. "He wasn't a doctor. What was he?" Marco's eyes darkened. "Where is he?" Luca hesitated. "He escaped." Marco slammed his fonts onto the mattress. "Damn it, but," Luca continued, "he left something behind." He placed a small envelope on the bedside table. Marco looked at it. No fingerprints? Nah. No DNA? Nothing. Marco nodded. Open it. Luca carefully unfolded the paper inside. His face changed immediately. What? Luca looked towards Sofia. You should probably sit down. Sofia frowned. Why? Instead of answering, Luca handed her the paper. She read it, then froze. It was a photograph, an old photograph. One side showed Marco years earlier, standing beside a smiling young woman. The other side showed Sofia leaving her apartment building only 3 days ago. Someone had been watching her long before she accepted the job. Marco noticed her trembling. Sofia. She looked at him. I've never seen this picture before. I believe you. They've been following me. I know. For how long? Marco slowly reached for the photo. They don't choose targets overnight. Sofia felt a chill run through her body. So, she whispered, this wasn't random. Marco shook his head. No. They knew the hospital would eventually run out of nurses. They knew you'd need another one. They studied everyone. His voice became quieter. And somehow, they chose you. Neither of them noticed the tears beginning to form in Sofia's eyes. Not from fear, from anger. They've been treating my life like a game. Marco nodded once. That's exactly what they're doing. She looked directly at him. I hate people like that. So do I. Luca's phone suddenly rang. He answered immediately. What? His expression changed. When? He listened for another few seconds, then lowered the phone. Boss, what now? They broke into Sofia's apartment. Sofia's face turned white. My apartment? Our men arrived too late. What did they take? Luca looked uncomfortable. Nothing. She frowned. Nothing. They didn't steal anything. Marco already understood. They wanted to prove they could get in. Luca nodded. They left another message. Sofia whispered, what does it say? Luca looked down. It was written across your bedroom wall. He took a slow breath. It says, we'll take everything you love. Silence. Marco slowly closed his eyes. They're escalating. Sofia sat down heavily in the nearby chair. My home, Luca continued. They destroyed every photograph. She looked up. What? Family albums? No, they smashed every frame. My grandmother's pictures? Luca nodded. Gone. For the first time since meeting Marco, Sofia cried. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Quiet tears rolled down her cheeks. Marco watched helplessly. He had ordered countless operations, negotiated impossible deals, faced armed rivals, but watching Sofia cry made him feel completely powerless. He reached toward her, stopped halfway, unsure. Sofia noticed. Without a word, she placed her hand in his. Marco squeezed it gently. I'm sorry. She looked at him. You didn't do this. I brought it into your life. You didn't ask for this either. His voice broke slightly. I should have refused your assignment. You tried. I should have insisted. You couldn't have known. Marco looked away. I've buried too many people because they stood beside me. Sofia tightened her grip. I'm still here. He slowly met her eyes. I don't want to lose you. The sentence escaped before he could stop it. The room fell silent again. Sofia stared at him. You barely know me. I know enough. What do you know? I know you stayed. He swallowed. I know you speak to me like I'm human. I know you don't care about my money. I know my own men smile because of you. A faint smile appeared through Sofia's tears. And, Marco smiled back, I know this hospital feels less empty when you're in it. Before either of them could say another word, Luca's radio crackled. His expression instantly changed. What? The voice on the other end spoke rapidly in Italian. Luca looked at Marco. Boss. Marco immediately recognized the tone. What happened? They found the traitor. Marco's eyes narrowed. Alive? Yes. Where? Luca hesitated. That's the strange part. Marco's patience disappeared. Luca, he surrendered. Silence. Marco frowned. No. That's what everyone thought. Nobody betrays me and surrenders. Luca nodded. He specifically asked to see you. Marco leaned forward despite the pain. What did he say? Luca looked directly at him. He said, "Tell Marco De Santis that he has been hunting the wrong enemy." Every person in the room exchanged confused looks. Marco spoke first. "What does that mean?" Luca slowly answered. "He says the person who ordered your assassination is someone you've loved your entire life." Marco's breathing stopped. His mind raced through every face he had ever trusted. His late mother? Impossible. His dead brother? Impossible. His closest friends? His remaining family? Who? Before he could ask another question, another bodyguard burst through the door without knocking. "Boss!" Marco turned sharply. "What now?" The guard looked at Sofia, then back at Marco. His voice trembled. "We have another problem." Marco stood as much as his injury allowed, his face filled with dread. "Say it." The guard swallowed hard. "Sofia's younger sister," he paused, "has just disappeared." If you're completely hooked by this point, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, because the final chapter delivers the biggest twists, emotional confrontations, and ending of the entire story. And before you continue, tell me in the comments, who do you think betrayed Marco? And do you believe Sofia's sister is still alive? If this story has kept you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to like the video and share it with fellow fans of emotional mafia dramas. The finale is about to change everything. Marco's face lost every trace of color. "Sofia's sister has disappeared?" The bodyguard nodded. "Yes, boss." Sofia shot to her feet. "No," her voice cracked. "No, that's impossible." Marco looked at her. "Where is she?" "My sister lives in Florence." "What's her name?" "Julia." "How old?" 26. "What happened?" The bodyguard answered. "Our men spoke to her landlord. She left work 2 hours ago, and she never arrived home." Sofia grabbed her phone with trembling hands. She called Julia. Once, twice, 5 times. Straight to voicemail. "No," she whispered. "Please answer." She tried again. Nothing. Marco watched the panic spread across her face. Then her phone buzzed. An unknown number. Sofia answered immediately. "Julia?" A distorted voice laughed. "No." Sofia's breathing became uneven. "Who is this? We told you we'd take everything you love." The line went silent. Marco held out his hand. "Put it on speaker," the voice returned. "You've become very important to Marco." Marco spoke. "If you want me, leave her out of this." Another laugh. "You still think this is about business?" Marco's expression hardened. "What do you want?" "You." "Then come for me. We already have." The call disconnected. Sofia stood frozen. Marco looked at Luca. "Find that number. We're already tracing it." "Move." Luca sprinted from the room. Marco turned back to Sofia. "We'll find her." Tears rolled down Sofia's cheeks. "You can't promise that." "I just did. You don't know if she's alive." Marco slowly reached for her hand. "I've broken promises before." He looked into her eyes. "I'm not breaking this one." Less than an hour later, Marco's private intelligence team filled the hospital conference room. Maps covered the walls. Phone records flashed across large monitors. Luca pointed to a blinking location. The phone signal lasted only 12 seconds. Marco frowned. "Enough? Maybe. Talk." It bounced through 3 towers before disappearing. "So, we have one possible location." "Where?" "Abandoned winery outside Siena." Marco didn't hesitate. "We're going." The doctor immediately objected. "Absolutely not." Marco turned. "I wasn't asking. You can't even stand without assistance. I'll manage your stitches." "I said I'll manage." Sofia stepped forward. "I'm going too." Marco shook his head. "No, my sister is there. It's too dangerous." She folded her arms. "So is breathing around you." Despite everything, Marco almost smiled. "You really never stop arguing." "No." "And you're still not listening." "No," Luca interrupted. "Boss, we don't have time." Marco looked at Sofia. "If you come," he paused, "you stay beside me. I wasn't planning to leave." Night had already fallen when a convoy of black SUVs rolled toward the abandoned winery. Marco sat in the back seat beside Sofia. Neither spoke for several minutes. Finally, Marco broke the silence. "If something happens," she interrupted, "don't. I need to say it." "No, Sofia." She turned toward him. "You are not saying goodbye. I'm making preparations. You're making me angry." He looked surprised. "Good. Why good? Because angry people don't give up." She stared at him, then quietly said, "You'd better come back." "I'll try." She shook her head. "No." "What? You don't try. You do. I've watched you fight pain every day." She squeezed his hand. "So don't tell me you'll try." She smiled through her tears. "Tell me you'll win." Marco looked at her for a long moment. Then he answered, "I'll win." The convoy stopped. Luca whispered, "We're here." The guards surrounded the building. Marco looked toward Sofia. "Stay behind me." She gave him a look. "You know that's impossible." Before he could answer, a loudspeaker crackled to life. "Marco De Santis," the voice echoed across the empty vineyard. "I've been waiting." Marco recognized it instantly. His face turned to stone. "No." Luca looked confused. "You know him?" Marco nodded. "Open the doors." The old winery doors slowly swung open. A man stepped into the moonlight. Elegant suit, grey hair, calm smile. Sofia looked between them. "Who is he?" Marco whispered only one word. "Enzo." Luca couldn't believe it. "Your uncle?" Marco nodded. Enzo smiled warmly. "Nephew." Marco's voice was ice. "I buried you. You buried the wrong man. You've been dead for 12 years. Enzo laughed. "Apparently not." Sofia frowned. "This is the man behind everything." Enzo looked at her. "No, I'm simply cleaning up old family business." Marco stepped forward with Luca's help. "Where's Julia?" "Safe." "I don't believe you. You don't have to." Enzo clapped slowly. "You've changed." Marco remained silent. "You used to think with bullets." Enzo smiled toward Sofia. "Now you think with your heart." Marco's jaw tightened. "Leave her out of this." "There it is." Enzo laughed again. "That sentence proves everything." Marco's guards slowly surrounded the winery. Enzo noticed. "You brought an army. You kidnapped an innocent woman. I protected her." Marco's eyes flashed with anger. "You terrorized her. I needed leverage. You destroyed Sofia's home. I wanted your attention." Marco took another painful step forward. "You have it." Enzo's smile disappeared. "Good." He snapped his fingers. Two men led Julia outside. Her hands were tied, but she appeared unharmed. "Sofia!" Julia cried. Sofia rushed forward instinctively. Marco grabbed her arm. "No, it's a trap." Enzo smiled. "She's smarter than you." "Julia!" shouted. "Sofia, don't come!" One of Enzo's men shoved her roughly. Marco's patience ended. He looked at Luca. "Now." Within seconds, Marco's men moved. Gunfire erupted. The quiet vineyard became chaos. Marco refused to stay behind. Ignoring the burning pain in his spine, he forced himself out of the wheelchair. Luca shouted, "Boss!" Marco grabbed the side of a stone pillar. His legs trembled violently. He nearly collapsed. Sofia saw him. "Marco," he gritted his teeth. "I said." He pushed himself upright. "I'd win." Step, another step, then another. For the first time since the assassination, Marco walked, slowly, painfully. But he walked. Everyone froze, even Enzo. "You," Enzo whispered, "you're standing." Marco looked directly at him. "You failed." Enzo reached for his pistol. Before he could fire, Luca tackled him. The weapon slid across the ground. The remaining guards quickly overpowered Enzo's men. Within moments, it was over. Sofia untied Julia and embraced her tightly. Neither sister could stop crying. Marco watched quietly. Relief washed over him. Luca approached. "You did it, boss." Marco slowly shook his head. "No." Luca looked confused. "What do you mean?" Marco smiled toward Sofia. "She did." 3 months later, the De Santis estate looked completely different. The armed checkpoints were gone. The underground weapons vault had been emptied. The illegal businesses had been shut down. Marco sold them all. The money funded rehabilitation centers, children's hospitals, and scholarships for nursing students across Italy. Reporters couldn't believe it. His own allies called him crazy. He didn't care. One sunny afternoon, Marco stood on the balcony, overlooking the gardens, still walking with a cane, still recovering. Sofia joined him. "You've been busy." "So have you," she smiled. "The rehabilitation center is almost finished. In your grandmother's name." She looked at him. "You remembered. I remember everything that matters." She laughed softly. "You've changed." He nodded. "I know." "What changed you?" Marco looked at the gardens, then back at Sofia. "The day you walked into my hospital room," he smiled. "Everyone thought you were there to help me walk again." He gently took her hand. "They were wrong." She tilted her head. "What do you mean?" "You taught me how to become a man I'd actually want to be." Sofia's eyes filled with tears. Marco continued. "The day I told everyone you were the only one allowed to touch me." He smiled warmly. "I thought I was protecting myself." He squeezed her hand. "I never realized you were healing my heart." Sofia stepped closer. "You healed mine too." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. They simply looked toward the future they had built together. Not through fear, not through violence, but through trust, courage, and compassion. Sometimes, the strongest people aren't the ones who never fall. They're the ones who choose to stand again, physically, emotionally, and morally, even when every reason tells them to stay down. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another unforgettable story. Your support helps bring more powerful stories like this to life. And before you go, tell me in the comments, what was your favorite moment? When Marco finally trusted Sofia, when he stood up and walked again, or when he chose to leave his criminal life behind? If this story made you smile, cry, or kept you on the edge of your seat, please share it with your friends and family. You never know who might need a reminder that even the darkest lives can find a path toward hope.